over on your right.
So I'm excited to watch this Abzan blue deck in action. We have not covered it yet today. Reflector Mage is a huge upgrade for this deck.
Yeah, so he's going with 4 Reflector Mages, otherwise what you'd expect out of an Abzan package, and then 4 Oath of Nissa, which that's going to be his turn 1 play.
A lot of good ones on the top off of that one. 3 cards you could actually pick.
Yeah, he has Land, Warden of the First Tree, and then a Siege Rhino. So kind of something about everything. He has a mid-game threat, a late-game threat, and a land.
Yep. A Warden, probably a little slow to take. This is already turn 2. Could be casting at this turn, but not off of Flooded Strand.
Yeah, Flooded Strand will be the plays. He'll pass back to Tom. Yeah, Warden is this card where turn 1 versus every other turn is really a different story for the card.
Absolutely. There's some late game situations where you have enough mana where you can top deck it, and if you're lucky, put +1/+1 counters on it with the mana you have available, over the course of turn 2 turns. But those are usually games that you're not really in anyway.
All right, second land for Tom. He'll pass back. And Eric, looking like he's going to curve out like the Abzan deck we have come to expect. Anafenza and Siege Rhino, I think they're set up to go one after another.
Well, Tom Ross does nothing on turn 2 like the Red-Black Dragons deck that we have come to expect.
We'll see if he can get... This is interesting. Grasp of Darkness would be quite the play here.
There it is.
And there we go. Anafenza will get grasped.
Saw the removal spell before we saw the creature.
Yeah, I mean, said it out loud. And that's big here. So this is something that we haven't seen up until Oath of the Gatewatch. This wouldn't have been a spot where Red-Black would have had a 2-mana kill spell for this Anafenza.
Yeah, Red-Black would have been in a pretty bad spot, actually.
You see that Grasp of Darkness, the reprint here.
Instead, on the draw, we're trading with mana efficiency, and we're drawing up a card in our turn.
Yeah, Tom's trading up here, It's his 2-mana spell for Eric's 3-mana play. So we'll see if Tom can hit back. Going to fetch for his second basic. Both players with mana firing on all cylinders. And it's going to be Flamewake Phoenix for Ross. So damage in on Mayday. Mayday goes down to 16.
Very good start for Ross. Jokes aside.
Yeah, getting that turn 2 kill spell. Perfect mana. Good 3-drop. There is... When you're watching Red-Black Dragons, I do like how quickly it ends the game in the air, but its early turns can look pretty bad.
They're tenuous. If you're not casting creature spells that Ross wants to kill, he's just not doing anything with his mana. That's a problem.
Well, we'll see how it stacks up against Siege Rhinos. We know at least one waiting in Mayday's hand, and I believe it's more than one.
We know he's got a Siege Rhino. Here it comes.
Yeah. When you have a Rhino, it's hard to make any other play. And that will switch the life totals back in Mayday's favor. So we go back over to Tom. Has Hangerback Walker, Thunderbreak Regent. He's just going to go to the air. It's Thunderbreak Regent. Here is Flamewake Phoenix swinging in. Mayday back down to 16. One of the difficulties here, how well Siege Rhino matches up against Thunderbreak Regent.
It is interesting to note that despite being having the first creature in play that's stuck with the Flamewake Phoenix, Tom is still 1 point behind on life. That's how good Siege Rhino is.
And some options. It looks like the last cards in Eric Mayday's hand are Reflector Mage, Dromoka's Command, and second Siege Rhino. So he has a decision to make this turn.
I like this play a lot here. Looks like we're going for Dromoka's Command.
So Command. Counter on Rhino. Rhino will fight Thunderbreak Regent. Eric goes to 13 because he targeted the Regent. And now Reflector Mage to bounce the Flamewake Phoenix. Here's Siege Rhino for 5. Tom's down to 10 and with an empty board.
And even if Eric did not have the Reflector Mage, it would be very tempting to cast that Dromoka's Command in that spot anyway, because a Dragon Lord Kalogan would, Kalogan the Storm's Fury would mean a lot of damage for Tom on the following turn.
It could almost be lethal. I believe actually it would be lethal. Just a dashed Kalogan would take Mayday's whole life total. Tom now left with no choice but to recast another Thunderbreak Regent. In the face of Eric's board, though, that doesn't look good at all.
No. 5/6 with trample against 10 life.
Second Rhino in hand for Mayday. This one could be over quickly. If you get into a mid-range slugfest against Siege Rhinos, it's tough to come out on the right side of that one.
Strange to think of a Rhino pound for pound going toe-to-toe with a dragon.
If the Rhino was big enough, he could do it, right?
This is a fantasy world. That Rhino is just gigantic, I assume.
I don't know their relative sizes. But yeah, I mean, I would think a dragon would be a better warrior than a Rhino. But let's see,
there's like a small fort on the Rhino's back. Like,
okay.
That's
She's
pretty
armored.
big. That's pretty big. This is taller than a real-world rhino. There's people standing at its feet.
Yeah, look at them. Yeah, they're people are like the size of. Yeah, don't even make it up one of his feet. That's a big rhino. Second rhino is the play for Mayday, so Tom went down to 5 off the hit, 3 more off the second rhino, and we'll see if he can survive the turn. Mayday at a healthy 16 thanks to those siege rhinos.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's much of anything that Tom can do.
Crux of Fate here.
That would be a good one.
That'd be a guy. He doesn't play that.
That's a problem. Yeah, Tom actually, a lot of creatures in his deck, and his removal spells just mostly outside of Murderous Cut. Can't even kill one rhino.
No, his removal spells are all single target removal. And with that, with 9 power of trample on Mayday's side of the board, I don't know that Tom can make it out to the next turn.
And we talk about how good Grasp of Darkness has been and decks that are adapting that, and we saw it be good in this game. It did trade with an Anafenza.
It was great, actually, yeah.
But it's nothing compared to Siege Rhino. You have to set up a combat scenario for it to even make that happen.
Yeah, it still can't take down Siege Rhino. I mean, few things can out of red-black. It's just the hard removal, your Murderous Cuts to take care of those guys.
Tom's pretty deep in the tank here.
Keep in mind, with Obs on blue, Mayday has left up Sunken Hollow. The deck does play 3 copies of Stubborn Denial in the main. Not that I think he'll need it this game, but it is an option. Play for Tom is going to be Thopter Engineer, followed by Flamewake Phoenix. We'll see if it was pre or post-combat. It's post-combat Flamewake Phoenix. Tom wants the ability to block, at least for 1 turn.
Yep. Cast that 1 pre-combat, you must attack.
Tom has 10 toughness on the board, only 9 power of trample for Mayday, so it is not necessarily lethal here. It's real close, though.
Yeah, one way or the other, it's pretty bad for Tom.
Yeah, that much is true. Here's Gideon. We'll see if he's just going to emblem it. It would put him to it would put his trample power to 11. Only 10 toughness on Tom's side of the board. Tom can,
leave him at 1.
In theory, well, no, because if he blocks,
oh,
he actually
right,
if he blocks all 10 power
him.
of trample, then the Reflector Mage goes unblocked. I do not believe there was a block that saved this for Tom.
This looks lethal. Yeah. Always a good idea to turn it up to 11.
And that he does. So Eric Mayday takes game 1 over Tom Ross. And Siege Rhino just strutting along that game, showing why it's still good.
Yeah.
in case you thought it wasn't good.
I do not want to play a standard format where Siege Rhino is not good, unless it's because the mana is not good enough to cast it.
That would be one really powerful standard format if he wasn't good enough for it.
Yeah. Don't even want to think about it.
All right, we'll look at the sideboard. Let's start on Tom Ross's side. I don't know that he has many things that can help. Well, maybe he has some things that can help against Siege Rhino. Let's look at this. We have Kolaghan's Command, Kozilek's Return, Self-Inflicted Wounds, Obnixilus. There's a Crux of Endless. All right, that was excellent. All right. 4 Transgresses and 1 Kalatas, Trader of Get.
So Transgress the Mind is primarily, presumably, in the sideboard to deal with the Eldrazi ramp deck, though it's fine here. Gideon and Siege Rhino are both relevant haymakers. I might see a couple copies of that coming in. I don't know if you want the full 4. Self-Inflicted Wound, obviously very good here. It's pretty much going to kill something every time. Eric's just flush with green and white creatures, so that one seems like a no-brainer. The Crux of Fate's a maybe. And it certainly would have been good in that board position earlier. I think it's probably worth bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, so it depends whether or not Tom wants to be the aggressor deck here or be a control deck. Based on his sideboard, it sounds like control is what he can do better.
Yeah, I mean, we're bringing in other removal spells, possibly discard spells, so it fits the bill.
Now, if that's the case, though, let's look at Mayday's sideboard for a second. Mayday can play the control game as well. He has copies of cards like Dispel, Ojutai's Command, Disdainful Stroke, Painful Truths.
Yeah, like Disdainful Stroke a whole lot. Counters most of these spells out of Tom that matter. Thunderbreak Regent, Pia and Kieran, which you have to assume that Tom is on. He's playing Thopter Engineer. Painful Truths helps you draw more counter spells, which is good. Ojutai's Command counters all of the threats, does some more stuff on top of it. Jace Prince Prodigy is kind of awkward because it dies to every removal spell in Tom's deck, so maybe we don't touch that one. But I don't hate it. It is still Jace.
Well, if you're just joining us, we are here sleeping up for game 2 of round 6 of the Star City Columbus Open. Now, this is part of season 1 on the SCG Tour. So what exactly does that mean? Well, between the December Las Vegas Invitational and all the way up to our Columbus Invitational in April, we have a schedule of events. These players are accumulating points for the Invitational, at which 3 of them will qualify for the Players Championship. You too can qualify. Go ahead and showing up to some of our events. You see right now we are at the Columbus Open. Next weekend we have a regional championships, but in season 1 we'll be traveling to Louisville, Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Baltimore before we return back to Columbus for the Invitational. We have Modern, Legacy, and Standard coming up, so you can play in the format of your choice. That's listed on the StarCityGames.com website, and we hope to see you at these events. If you do, we're giving away a copy of the Kitchen Links playmat, which, you know, parody of everyone's favorite Kitchen Finks.
Yeah, it's the only Kitchen Finks that I'm aware of.
Everyone's... Well, this is okay. Yeah. No. There's promo Kitchen Finks that don't look like this.
That's true.
That one's not our favorite though. That's not the favorite.
I hope that isn't anybody's favorite. You make a good point.
Yeah. So this is the good. Anyway,
I tried to catch you on an English technicality, and you
then I lawyered you back.
Put me in my place.
All right. Well, you too could get that art given away at all our SCG main events. We are back on to game 2. Tom Ross will be on the play again. Red Black Dragons. And it looks like we have a mulligan here from Mayday. Last game, Tom he shored up the early game by tagging an Anafenza with a Grasp of Darkness.
Started out real good.
But that doesn't matter when multiple Siege Rhinos are involved.
No, not so much.
I think it's fair to say that Siege Rhino is the most important card in Eric's deck in this matchup.
I think it's fair to say that in most of Eric's matchups.
Well, it's not always the most. It's always good. It's not always the linchpin, you know?
That's true.
But if he just has double Rhino hands, it seems like a world of difficulty for Tom. Flamewake Phoenix does not output enough damage to even be close to racing a Siege Rhino.
No.
It's like 2, then 2. You're like, okay, gain 3, back 3. You're like, wow, that's...
So on the play, on turn 5, your Flamewake Phoenix has been good for 6 points. The Rhino on the crackback is putting in its 7th.
Well, that's not also if you count the life gain, it just puts in 6 the moment you play it. If we're just talking about racing.
Yeah, it's even worse than the way that I described it.
All right, well, Eric's going to keep on 6. Oath of Nissa is his start. People will trade off lands here. Pressure once again on Tom to see if he can assemble an early game. His early creatures are Hangerback Walker, Thopter Engineer, and Flamewake Phoenix. He's taken out the Hordeling Outbursts that you normally see in this deck to play Thopter Engineer.
Yep, some nice little synergies with Pia and Kieran on that change.
You know, it's kind of nice. I think in a deck like Dragons, I like this change from Tom in that I haven't seen these Red Black Dragons decks deal much damage on the ground. It seems like all their damage is in the sky.
And something that Chris Anderson was saying when we talked to him earlier is that flying is a big reason to play this deck. The fact that Thunderbreak Region flies, nobody can really block it. So makes Thopter Engineer seem pretty good compared to Hordeling Outburst. Well, also, in a mirror, the Engineer just blocks the Goblins while your Thopter gets in for damage.
Well, here is the Engineer. It'll make a 1/1 Thopter, give it haste, and hit in. So Mayday takes a point down to 19. Have been impressive, those starts where you've been watching. We had a game with Chris Anderson playing Thunderbreak Regent into Kolagon the Storm's Fury, double triggering, dealing 12 damage in 1 attack.
Yeah, on turn 2 and 3, the deck almost never looks impressive. Turn 4 and 5, it has some great ways to change that.
Yeah, just if you aren't a deck that can remove flyers, the Red Black Dragons deck can kill you so quickly.
Yeah, if you're not equipped with, say, Netcaster Spider, the one of that we saw Tickle play in his rally sideboard.
Yeah, if you have Flamewake Phoenix into Thunderbreak Regent into Kolagon the Storm's Fury, that's actually lethal. Just 20 damage on curve.
Seems like a good start.
That's not even asking your deck to do that much.
No, it's asking you to draw the cards that you play 4 copies of.
And lands. Yeah, it's great. Well, what also is great, though, is this Anafenza from Mayday. We'll see if it can stick around. Well, it's going to take some heat here. Fiery Impulse and Draconic Roar revealing Kolagon from Tom.
Okay. Using 2 removal spells on the same creature, not always ideal. That is where the upside in Draconic Roar really comes to shine, though. That 3 damage is not nothing.
Then he'll swing for 2, putting Mayday down to 13. It's still an expensive turn from Tom. And he'll play another fetch land and pass. Now that means he will have enough mana to dash Kolagon in the next turn.
He's got a Haven of the Spirit Dragon in his hand. Pretty solid land, though the Abzan deck mostly kills it with Abzan Charm if it kills it at all, so might not come to bear.
So tough decision now for Mayday. He knows about Kolagon. He has land 4. He has a Disdainful Stroke in hand and also a Siege Rhino.
That's tough.
Yeah, he can. Rhino's great here, and you don't want to slam it, but if you know your opponent has the counter, or has the dragon rather, and you have the counter, can you play around it?
You're behind on board. That incentivizes you to do something, but you know that this giant dragon is looming.
At the same time, I think Tom's savvy enough that if Mayday just plays nothing and leaves mana up, I don't think Tom jumps the dragon in there. I think he just sits back. What I do like on Mayday's side is if he waits longer here, he has a Tasigur in hand, and he could, in theory, play Tasigur and leave up Disdainful Stroke a turn down the road without too much consequence.
He's thinking real hard about it.
And once again, it looks like the Rhino's going to win out.
Yeah, it was
Ross
good.
to 16, Mayday to 15. We'll see if that comes back to get him.
It was good in game 1. Let's try it again.
Like I said, it's hard to argue. If you have 4 mana and a Siege Rhino in your hand, it's hard to argue for any other play. Though here I may have wanted to. If Mayday doesn't have a kill spell for the Kolagon, then I don't think I like the Siege Rhino here.
The tough thing is, I believe that Mayday has a 5th land. I don't believe that he has a 6th. So if you take that turn off here, try to take the next turn off, and you just don't find the 6th land, then you're actually just not playing Magic.
Well, if he plays land 5, he could cast Tasigur with Disdainful Stroke up the next turn.
That's true. Significantly less impactful than Rhino, though.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it depends how hard he's punished for this play. I mean, you know, this is the one that with the biggest downside but biggest upside. I guess Tom will have to decide whether or not he wants to dash Kolagon or cast it. The card's almost always just dashed.
Yeah, if you dash it, you know, if you expect this Mardu blue deck is going to have counters in, then you have to be worried about casting it the turn after. But you can always just worry about that problem when it happens.
So here's a swing. It's going to be for 7 in the air from Tom. Conveniently, 7 is actually a 3-turn clock at the moment.
Yep, putting Mayday down to 8.
The drop Mayday is a Reflector Mage. I mean, big heads up rewarded by Tom that he didn't cast the Kolagon, that he dashed it. If he had cast it, I believe his hand is just 2 Kolagons.
Oh, wow.
So that draw would have been a little good here.
Yes.
Swing from Rhino will put Tom down to 10. And here's Reflector Mage.
Or is it Tasigur?
Well, he doesn't have double blue, so he can't play the Mage and...
Yeah, Tasigur is a much more appealing here.
Well, I think he may have wanted to do something like Mage away a token and leave up Disdainful Stroke. That would have been okay. I mean, either way, leaving up Disdainful Stroke seems great for Eric.
Right. And now that you have Disdainful Stroke up, you don't even have to cast it because you have access to the Reflector Mage on the following turn. And now that you have the 4/5 in play instead of casting the 2/3 the turn before, you get to apply a lot more pressure.
This is a really good spot. Tom's hand, 2 Kolagons. It looks like he has Crux of Fate.
Okay. Not surprised to see that one come in.
So the question is if he can go for the dragon or whether he has to. If he goes for Crux, I mean, I think no matter what he goes for, he's going to get Disdainful Stroked. And that's a win for Tom, though it doesn't look like it.
Right. He has 2 more spells that have now been opened up to resolve.
Well, and Crux of Fate's the one he needs to have resolve, right?
Right.
I mean, this turn's going to hurt. I'm not sure he lives through it. But Crux looks great. Tom still has a Crux and another Kolagon in hand.
Yeah.
So getting that Kolagon countered was a big tempo play. Tom paid 5, didn't get anything. But as far as actually like just, you know, ruining the quality of Tom's hand, it doesn't really do anything. Tom still has Kolagon.
No, that was strictly tempo here.
Yeah. Here's a swing for 8 from Mayday.
I believe that the card that Mayday has picked up is a Gideon ally of Zendikar. And it looks like the plan is just to post-combat that and make a 2/2, which is going to be quite good against this Crux of Fate.
Because now that means Tom can't Crux, because if he Cruxes, Gideon will plus and win the game.
Yep.
If that's the draw, that's huge. That's going to take away Tom's plan. We'll see. Thopter Engineer goes in front of Tasigur. Rhino deals 4. Tom drops to 6. I think you're right. And what a draw for Mayday.
At this point, I'm not entirely sure what Mayday's thinking about. The actions he's taken by already going to combat, he's committed to not playing Reflector Mage, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't play Gideon. Yeah, this just has to be the line.
It could land Draconic Roar Kolagon wins.
Okay.
But I don't think he can play around it.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
I mean, it's good to know that what beats you, but I don't think he can. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, probably just taking a second to think about if he can do anything.
Sure. That's the only combination of cards I can think of that would win on this spot off Tom's board.
Yeah, Pia and Kieran's not good enough. You only get 2 hasters on that.
All right, they do. Thopter Engineer is in play. Good call.
Not nearly enough mana to shock, and not enough Thopters either. So.
And such a tough spot here from Tom. He sees the Gideon, knows that he has nothing, can't do that Crux that he was going to try to win the game with isn't good anymore. A little side note here, if you notice, Mayday got to leave up white mana here because of that Oath of Nissa. There's only one tapped plains on his side, and that is just fine.
I like it. Letting Tom know.
Letting Tom know. I remember what my cards do, even when I don't need to. Maybe I have Valorous Stance. You don't know. Maybe I have Dromoka's Command. Okay, wait, nope. He left about blue-black too. He doesn't have Dromoka's Command.
Yeah. No other way for him to leave up blue mana, though.
All right, Cruxifate's the play. Tom couldn't. So he's not dead to Gideon.
Yep.
He's representing Murderous Cut. If you're Eric, you just called. Did you make a because Gideon's not lethal, right?
Gideon's not destructible.
Oh wow, you're right. Okay. So Eric he can put Tom to 1, or he can make an ally. I think. Well, okay, he's gonna put him to 1. Gideon goes to 5. I suppose we can always top deck a Siege Rhino.
It's true. I think that in this spot I would have made the ally just because it's not lethal. I'll be able to attack for 5 next turn. I'd probably make an ally and not cast Reflector Mage.
Well, if you put Tom to 1, all your creatures are suddenly lethal. And so, Tom's going to have to play this game with one hand behind his back now. Fetch lands are no longer good real draws. Rhinos win. I think that's ought to be said for the ally, but I like this line from Mayday as well.
There's definitely merit to it. Absolutely.
Looks like Mayday has a judge question away from table, so we are going to wait on that one. All right. You know how this works? He'll play Reflector Mage and pass. Think wanted to just be sure that Reflector Mage didn't have to bounce the Gideon.
Yeah.
That would be all sorts of bad if it did.
Can I cast this 2/3 and do nothing? Okay.
And the play there was Kolagon and a swing.
And Murderous Cut and a lethal crackback.
And so there you have it. Eric Mayday, 2-0, defeats Tom Ross, moves to 6-0. That is almost certainly going to be good for a spot in day 2. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
For Tom Ross's first loss of the day, but by no means out of it. And Red Black Dragons picking up its loss on the day. Every time we start to forget about Siege Rhino, this starts to happen.
And I will say, given that Murderous Cut there, that attack with Gideon was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that, because then you say, you look at your hand, you're like, I'm going to get one more damage in here.
Yep.
I have a removal spell.
Yep. There was pretty much no way out for Tom there. And that's just the power of Abzan Blue. That's the power of Reflector Mage. Didn't really shine necessarily in that match there, but had a lot of potential to.
I mean, that to me just looks like classic old Abzan beating up another mid-range deck.